Testing, testing, testing. All right, I think that Ryan, you are coming in, but I can't see you yet. Okay, I think there's probably two other people on the Hangout. So hold on a second. Mm. Let's see. It doesn't show any viewers. You can see me. Okay, how can I see you? How do I modify this? You guys can hear me too. All right. The question is how can I let you guys in on this? This will be the first time wrestling with this technology. You guys can hear me apparently. Apparently you guys, there's 3 viewers. It shows me, but I can't see who they are. All right, I'm looking for these settings. Hangout toolbox. Okay, so someone said I can see you. Ryan, okay, that's Ryan. All right, I'm gonna try to see if if I have to invite you. Ryan, what is your? Let me see if I can invite the public. Invite my circles. Yeah, Ryan, to answer your question, this is trying to get it where it streams and records automatically. I know this is sort of working it out, and we had 5 people who said that they were going to join in. So I'm trying to get the technology worked out before doing a whole lot of PR. So let's see, Ryan, I'm trying to type in what's your Google account, Ryan? If you can text it to me, and Fred, in this question window, tap in your Google account that I can use to invite you, and maybe I can get you on the video. All right, Fred, I invited you. All right, Ryan Joy at Microsoft.com. Is that the one I should use? So it's Megan, Ryan, and Fred. Did either Ryan or Fred, I sent you an invite. Did either one of you get it? Oh, ATX, okay. Let's do that one. All right, invite sent. Did you get anything? Nothing? It's supposed to let you guys. It's supposed to let you guys join. Ryan, let me know if it sent you anything. Okay. And Fred, I'm going to paste this for you. All right. Oh, there you are. So it worked. Ryan, you're on.
Woohoo!
Okay. All right. So I had to invite you in order to have you come on the video. Otherwise, it just doesn't let people join automatically. That's disappointing. Ryan, have you ever used this before where it was more of a panel or an open group? I know it doesn't scale for 100 people, but for 10 maybe.
Yeah, we used Google Hangouts for another event, an HTML5 hub with Intel, myself, PhoneGap, and some other people. But I think it was the same thing where we were kind of invited, not necessarily um, open season in terms of who could join.
Okay. But if you're going to stream it, if you're going to stream it automatically to YouTube and have it captured, I guess you have to use it this way then.
Yeah, I think that was the key there as well. But it definitely had to set up the presenters ahead of time.
Okay. So part of my goal here, and I'm gonna trim up this video and I'm gonna leave it online just so that other people can see it. It's a bit raw, but part of my goal here is to facilitate an Azure community that's more than just Austin,
Yeah,
because we started in I think it was in May in Austin with just a local in-person user group with Microsoft Office, and it's great for that group of people. And there are a couple people who are using Azure and getting deep into it, but then a lot of people wanting to learn about it. And so I'm trying to broaden the reach, and I'm thinking this is the way to do that and capture the content. But it may be appropriate to set up a panel discussion each time where you have maybe 4 or 5 people or a minimum of 3 people discussing a topic, and then
yeah,
that is captured, and maybe the audience can ask questions, and as it grows.
yeah. I think the format's neat. I think would work out very well. Obviously, there's some technical growing pains, but
Right.
it'd be
So
fun.
do you see on your left, do you see a something that says control room? No, no,
Mm,
sorry, Hangout Toolbox. It's right above the control room on the
I
left-hand
do.
side.
Yep.
Click on Hangout Toolbox, and then
Okay.
an option called Lower Third, and you can put in your name and your role, and so I think I'm not. Fred had some difficulty joining, but we can just go through this, and probably it'll be a I don't know, 20 minute or so. And we can just go through the topic and see how it publishes and how it plays out.
So turn on lower third. There you go.
Perfect. And my logo, I'm going to turn mine off, and then I'm going to redo mine. So I do not want a logo, but the logo is already sent. That stinks. I'm going to have to get a different logo. That's fine. Okay. Yep, I see yours, and it says Ryan Joy. I think you have to turn it off and turn it back on for it to refresh the second line. You could put badass Microsoft, all that jazz.
It's not very badass. It's just developer evangelist.
Yeah. I think you might have to put dev evangelist for it to be on one line.
Yeah.
And okay. All right, there it goes. So Fred's still trying to join, but for some reason he's not. He's having a difficult time. So let me go ahead and just see what happens. Well, actually, Fred's coming back over, so let me try to invite him again. Fred, I just sent you an invite. This is the Hangout, the one with me waving. The other one was a different computer. It was just the old one that I did wrong. So I saw you join over there, but let's come on to this one. And I invited you to the broadcast, and I see you on Skype. And so I invited you. So if you're logged into Google Plus, you should be able to join us. Otherwise, watching is cool too. So, but I'm going to get started, and so the broadcast, I'm going to have to trim this up. This is much better, isn't it? All right. Powder my nose, all that jazz. All right, and I'm going to try to do a little bit of PowerPoint and then just talk about it in general. So get situated. Wait for the Azure portal to start up. Slow.
Yeah, I'm in now.
Oh, is that Fred?
Yeah.
Awesome. Go to the Hangout toolbox and set up your lower third.
Where is the Hangout toolbox listed?
It's on the left-hand side.
I see a Q&A and something that's grayed out.
It's right above the control room icon. It's the red suitcase-looking icon.
Okay, I see it.
Oh, is that Fred? Okay. All right, and then Fred, you've got quite a bit of background noise coming from your.
Yeah, that's true. Let me put you on mute. It's my AC unit.
Okay. All right, cool. All right, I'm gonna start going, and then we'll just trim it later on. So I'm gonna go into here and let's make it interactive. You know, let's talk about various things. So that'll be fun. All right, get started. I'm gonna set up PowerPoint so it's ready to go. There we go. All right. I'm going to wave my arms, all that stuff, so I can have a good cut point. So welcome to AzureAustin. This is a new year, 2014. We're trying a new format. We're going national over video, and so if in the future you guys want to join and be a part of the interactive panel as we go through the topic, then let me know, and we'll make that happen. And then we'll be capturing every meeting and posting it to YouTube and organizing as we go. So the point is not to be completely polished and completely professional, but really to help folks learn about Azure and build the community. So you see we have Ryan Joy, developer evangelist at Microsoft, and Fred Maynard also on the call. And we're going to go through a topic that over here at ClearMeasure we've been using on every project and learning about, and that's about how to manage the accounts, the subscriptions, and the costs. There's lots of great technical information about how to work with cloud services and VMs and all the different features, and they're coming out fast and furious. But when you get into it, there's not a whole lot of information about actually the mechanics of managing the accounts and what are the gotchas in there, and how not to get surprised with a large bill. So we've made some mistakes in various areas. We've stumbled a bit, but worked out how to properly manage these guys. So I'm going to share that with you today. Then we'll discuss it and go from there. So I'm gonna share the PowerPoint screen briefly and start that screen share. And here we go. So I'm just going to leave the Chrome. I know it's not polished, it's not full screen, but we'll just go with it. And so we're gonna get right into a little bit of information. You don't really care about me, but that's a little bit about me, and you can pause the video if that's of interest a little bit later. One of the interesting things about Azure is that some of the features are exposed in the portal and some are not. Let me give a story. We have an engagement manager who helps with all of the various non-technical project management issues. And one of those things is just the logistics of managing an Azure account. We use an Azure subscription for dev and test purposes for every project team that is working at ClearMeasure. If you're not familiar, ClearMeasure is a software engineering firm in Austin, Texas. We work sort of at the high end of the market, building business-critical software systems, upgrading them, integrating them, building on new capabilities, and any historical technology on the Microsoft and Windows platform, all the way up to the present technologies, is fair game. We've got a system that has some really old VB6, and then every version of technology, all the way through all the versions of .NET up to the present, about 30 different pieces of software running across 11 different servers, and all working together. We've also got native and kernel mode C++ to include driver code, working inside Visual C++, as well as ANSI C out of Visual Studio. So we've got the whole gamut of Microsoft development technologies, but every one of our teams is using Windows Azure for dev and test purposes. And I'm not going to talk about production here in this talk. I'm just talking about enabling development teams and test teams. I'm going to confine the topic to that for now. And so we have an engagement manager who is charged with, among other things, managing the Azure accounts. And what does that mean? That means working with bookkeeping to pay the bill, to keep track of how much we're using it, to be able to report on that, to add new people with the appropriate amount of access when necessary. All those things could be done by a technical person, but it's not really technical work, and so we like to keep our architects and senior engineers focused. And so one of the concepts that Azure has is the various types of administrators. And so straight from some of the documentation you see on the screen, there's an account administrator, a service administrator, and a co-administrator. Whoever starts the Azure subscription, whoever creates it, is designated the account owner. They are assigned to both the account administrator and the service administrator by default. And then it's pretty easy through the Azure portal. You can just add co-administrators, and that's pretty easy to do. What's not so obvious is how to change the account administrator or the service administrator. Those oftentimes require something a little more deep, and if you submit a billing ticket, they'll help you out. And so what actually happens is you can manage co-administrators yourself, and you can change the service administrator, but any other type of delegation can't be done through the Azure portal. This next screen here is an email that we got from one of the support reps because we worked through this issue ourselves. And the Azure portal doesn't use the concept of a primary admin, but the person who created the account is designated as the primary admin, and these are words used internally that are not really exposed. The primary admin can get to the billing, can get to usage reports, and can do everything, and not only manage the subscription and the resources, the technical resources like servers and whatnot, but can also go in there and look at the money side of things. Okay, the technical side of things and the money side of things are completely separate. And so in our situation, we need an account manager and sometimes a bookkeeper to at least have access to know and to see the billing history for the account, because after all, it's money, right? It's just an administrator or back office type of task. And so there is a concept that is not exposed anywhere in the portal called a delegate admin. And you have to submit a ticket. Currently, you have to submit a ticket, and you have to ask someone to add a delegate admin. You can save yourself a little bit of pain by using those keywords, because then the support reps will know what you're talking about. Because if you go in, and we've been through this process, if you go in and say, hey, I need to change the admin so and so can get to the billing. They'll come back and say, oh, so you want to change the administrator to such and such. And if you say yes, then what they'll do is they'll make your bookkeeper, or they'll make your engagement manager or someone else the owner of the Azure subscription. And that's not what you mean at all. You just need them to be able to access the billing history and the account page and the features back there. So you'll have to submit a ticket and use the term delegate admin. And you won't be able to view the list of delegate admins anywhere on the portal, but you'll just have to submit your ticket, ask for that very specifically, and then they can just click a few buttons and boom, it's done. And then those folks will be able to log in and see the invoices, the usage reports, and the history of billing. And so I hope that helps out some folks, because that was a little bit hard fought from our perspective. Something else I want to talk about is some tips on how to manage your subscriptions. And so one of the things that you'll notice by default is that when you create a subscription, it gives you a name automatically, and it's pay as you go, and that's the name of the subscription. And for your first subscription, you probably just accept the name and you hit go. Well, once you have 2 subscriptions or 3 subscriptions, and if you're like me, you not only have multiple subscriptions at your company, you have multiple Microsoft IDs, multiple Microsoft identities, and maybe you have an MSDN Azure account, and maybe you have a personal, and maybe you have a BizSpark if you're a new company, and maybe you have one for your employer, maybe you have one for Hotmail, and you've used a couple of trials. And if you have a subscription to each one of those, and it's called pay as you go, it's going to get very confusing. And when you get an email saying, hey, and this will happen because you're paying via credit card, you're going to have a new credit card with a new expiration date, and Microsoft is going to try to charge your credit card, and your credit card will have expired. Or with all of the security breaches around Target, and Target and Neiman Marcus and all these other folks, Bank of America has just started issuing tons and tons and tons of credit card replacements, and they're going to deactivate certain cards. So there's this huge refresh of credit cards coming across the market, and invariably you're going to get an email from Microsoft saying, hey, we had trouble charging your card. Please go into the account admin and fix it. And the email will include the name of your Azure subscription, and it'll say pay as you go. That email doesn't include the email address that your Microsoft account is for. It doesn't include any information about your account. It only includes the subscription name, and if it's named pay as you go, you're not going to know where to even start. So a big tip is to name very specifically your Azure subscriptions and include some top-level information as well, the company the project is for, whatnot. Also, yeah, go ahead, Fred.
Yeah, this is an area that I've always been sort of curious about. It always seems like there's only the ability to pay with like a personal credit card or something like that. How would a corporate account set up,
Hmm.
their billing and that sort of thing? Is it
Glad you
more
asked.
complicated to do the delegates and things like that?
We haven't done it yet. We are very, very close to switching from credit cards to invoice-based billing. There is the option to do invoice-based billing, and that's what the corporate side looks like. And so our volume of Azure has gotten pretty high, where it's consuming a large part of our credit card just to keep running it through. And so we're very, very close to switching to that. But that's another support ticket that you have to submit as well. It's, hey, please change this to invoicing. Now, you're going to get vetted by Microsoft, and they're going to look at what your track record of paying is, because what invoicing essentially means is that Microsoft is taking a little bit more risk and giving you some sort of credit terms, where at the end of the period, they're going to send an invoice to you, and then you're going to be on the hook for paying that invoice. If you specify a credit card, then there's a little bit less risk, because you've been vetted enough by a credit card company to have an account with them, and Microsoft is going to easily charge that credit card account, and then it's going to be incumbent upon you to pay your credit card back. So Microsoft will do that through a support ticket, but they're going to vet you a little bit and make sure that you're an upstanding person or company, and that they trust that you're going to pay if they send you an invoice. So haven't done it, but we're very, very close to making the switch. So hope that helps. All right, the next thing that I was going to go over is how to control costs, and I'll switch the screen back over. So one of the things that you can go on the billing screen, I'm sure you've seen, you can have an estimated next bill, but that doesn't help you get alerted to costs. True story, this happened. We shut everything down for Christmas and came back after New Year, and one of the accounts had gone up considerably. And so, we looked into it, and the whole team said, well, wait a minute, we shut down all the VMs. Everything was stopped and deallocated, and when VMs are stopped, it doesn't charge you. Well, two of the cloud services that were stopped were not VM cloud services, they were worker roles. And the way a worker role works is you have to remove and completely delete the deployment. You have to completely deprovision the worker roles. And so we had several instances of the worker role still deployed. They weren't running, but they were still deployed, and so it got charged. And so we looked in there, we had a little retrospective, and not huge, but just something a learning experience. And we've started to play around with these alerts. And so what you see on the screen is defining an alert, and you can go in here on each of these services, and you can define a spending alert, and then you can specify a certain metric or a certain number to keep watch over and get an alert. This does help a little bit, but it does have a limitation that it's per service. So if you're like us, we have tons and tons of services, and we want a spending alert at the account level or at the subscription level. So this gets us a little bit there, but really we've tackled it via process where our engagement manager, the one who's in charge of the bill and overseeing that, goes in each day and just keeps tab on how much usage there is and makes sure that it's growing at the rate that we expect it to grow, and doesn't get out of control.
So the data that gets reported back to you, is that like the dollar basis that you're burning, or is it like the consumption, the resource consumption? What's being reported there?
It's based on a metric. So for instance, on compute hours of a cloud service, you can set an alert on number of compute hours. And if you download a usage report and you pull down the CSV or the Excel file, each service measures its usage with a different metric. For instance, storage measures it in gigabytes, and the cloud services measure it in number of hours of usage, and each one has a rate. So you pick the metric.
So when you set one of those triggers, you just get an email saying, okay, you've exceeded your disk trigger or something that you've set up. It doesn't really say
Right.
like you've consumed $15 in the past 24 hours or something like that.
Exactly. I would consider the Holy Grail to be at a subscription level. Alert me if the forecast of my next bill is going to be greater than a certain dollar amount. That's what I think is the right level of alert for them to bake in. For now, it's incumbent upon the Azure user to fulfill the needs. So this helps out a little bit on a particular service, but to watch your costs, you really need to keep tabs on the estimated bill. You want to turn off all of your VMs when you're not using them, and you want to remove or delete all of the deployments for your cloud services. Deallocating only stops charging on VMs. The other cloud services, even if you stop it, you still get charged unless you completely remove the deployment.
And you still get charged for the storage space on the VMs, even though they're not running, right?
You do, but in practice, it's more pennies. So it's less significant, and you might add a couple of dollars over the course of the month, depending on your data usage. For us, a 20 gigabyte image for a VM multiplied by 50 or 100 servers still doesn't. It's not even a blip on the accounting radar when it comes down to storage costs. The compute costs and SQL Server costs, those are really, those dwarf storage fees by a long shot.
Okay.
So those are my overview of how to manage the accounts and the subscriptions, and just quick tip on managing your costs. Ryan or Fred, is there any other tips that you might offer our viewers in working with Azure in this way?
In general, this is all really good information. A lot of times whenever I'm working with developers, I'm working with them as the primary consumer of Azure, not necessarily as a reseller of the services for their clients. So this is actually all new information to me as well, and great tips. I would wonder, have you one thing in terms of making sure that it's more clear to the technical account owner versus the delegate admin, as you mentioned. We'll definitely want to take that into consideration in terms of for better improvement of the admin experience on the Azure side. Make sure you know who actually has delegate admin status to the subscription, etc.
Yeah, and this is when you bring it in for an organizational management perspective, any company is going to want at least the bookkeeper or somebody in the accounting department to have access to pull down an invoice. Just that simple function. And without the delegate admin, there's no other way to do it except by making them the actual owner of the Azure subscription, which is not what you want at all, and that's not what they want at all. They don't want to be responsible for owning the Azure subscription. They just want to be able to pay the bill.
Yep. So let me ask you a question. When you were setting up the alerts, is that something when you're setting up an alert on the because you're keying off of usage? I assume that any user has access to that alert data, or is that only for the delegate admins as well? Because there is a disconnect there in terms of, okay, this person's worried about the billing, this person's just worried about speed and optimizations and the actual technical side of things. There's definitely kind of a good meeting in the middle, right?
Azure is not that sophisticated in slicing and dicing the roles and permissions. It's really big blocks, and so we've got the account administrator, the service administrator, the co-administrators, and then we've got the delegate admins, which are completely hidden. And so our usage has been for technical people to be declared co-admins, and that way they can provision any Azure resource within the subscription. And then for our non-technical bookkeeper, logistics types to be designated as a delegate admin, and then the executive in charge, in this case it's me, to actually be the account administrator and the service administrator. We don't really try to split the two. So from a practical standpoint, technical, non-technical, and we've got co-administrators, and we've got the delegate admin. So that's pretty much all that's needed for us. We're happy with the way it works. It took us a little bit to find out the delegate admins and go through the support ticket process, but I have no complaints at this point, and it works fine for us. We provision an Azure subscription for each of our software teams dedicated to each project for a client. So that's the way it works, and we are actually the Azure customer. We're not reselling Azure per se to our clients. We're using it for ourselves in the delivery of our services to our clients, in the building of these business critical software systems, and using the dev and test and pre-production environments.
I've got a question again about larger companies and how they would use this. Do you know like what a strategy would be for a company with multiple departments where each department would really want to have an independent subscription? Because you wouldn't want to have like a single person at the company having all control over all the technical things, or you might want to have just the accounting department handling the billing and payments part of it, but as far as the technical configuration and that sort of stuff, you wouldn't want to designate that for one person across an entire company if you might have like 15 departments or something.
That's a good point, and we have we don't call them departments, but we have multiple teams, and each team has an independent Azure subscription. Okay. And at the subscription level, you can put any number of servers, any number of cloud services, databases, and it keeps them all grouped together, but completely isolated from the other subscriptions. So the folks on Team A can be co-administrators of the Azure subscription for Team A, and then they'll have access to everything there, but they will not have access to anything for Team B. And so I think that you can use a similar setup for departments, and the departments or teams, they don't even know any details about other subscriptions for other teams or departments.
Yeah, and in that case, you would just have like some person, some contact person in the accounting department would be the delegate admin for each of those. One person would be the same delegate admin for all.
Right. Okay. Right. Now, logistically setting up the Azure subscriptions, if you have the department lead or the engineering director or chief architect, whatever senior technical person is designated to, quote, own the Azure subscriptions, you'll want them to create it, and they'll be designated the account administrator and the service administrator. If you have the accounting department provision it for the purposes of putting in credit card information and whatnot, then they can submit a support ticket and have the back-end support folks change the official account administrator to a senior technical person. So there's two ways you can go, but it will require a support ticket if you want to change the official account administrator, because that's declared to be the subscription owner account.
And does this change for like a large company that has like a volume license subscription? Would they be? I mean, since if they already got a large customer relationship with Microsoft, do they just sort of bill that under the same heading, or how would they do that?
So I can't claim to know in detail how that works because I haven't managed a volume license agreement. However, having spoken with some of the senior sales folks in the Azure division, they are interested in getting Azure Enterprise subscriptions provision for those folks, and that entails a minimum of a $25,000 guaranteed usage as a base, and it's actually some sort of a percentage discount on the actual usage fee, but you have to pay that at the beginning of the year as opposed to paying it in the rear. Mm-hmm. And so that does enable a enterprise-focused administration panel for many Azure subscriptions, because in those cases they're expecting the company across, like for instance General Electric, they might have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Azure subscriptions, and so there is an enterprise portal that helps in managing all of those. I haven't used it, haven't been in that space, but I have discussed it with some of the senior account reps for the Azure division.
Okay.
All right, so that's our topic for today. Fran or Ryan, you have anything else to add before we close it out for the viewers?
Thank you for putting this together. I look forward to more of these virtual sessions. I think this is a great format. Right after lunch and bite-sized content. So exciting start.
Awesome. So if anyone watching is interested in either sharing on a particular topic about Windows Azure or Microsoft cloud-based services, or even being a participant in the topic discussion, please get in contact with me, Jeffrey at clear-measure.com, or Twitter on @JeffreyPalermo, and get in contact with me, or just go to the website clear-measure.com, and we'll get you on the list to participate in the next monthly meeting. Go to meetup.com/AzureAustin in order to find information about when we're going to meet up next. We're going to get some of these technology hiccups ironed out and be a little bit more polished for the next one. But if you're watching this on YouTube, there was a lot of effort in going into presenting this and post-production, and if you see a clean start and a clean end, then that's the work of getting it all cleaned up. So this is great. Please reach out if you're interested in participating. If you have a suggestion for a topic, if you have a suggestion for a facilitator, and we'll see you next month.
Great. Thanks.